The massive council chamber floated in the void between stars, its crystal walls reflecting the light of distant suns. Representatives from 47 different species sat in their designated areas, each breathing their preferred atmosphere through personal environmental shields. The emergency session had been called by the oldest members of the galactic community, the Vorthic Elders. Elder HFY moved slowly to the center of the chamber. His forearms trembled slightly as age caught up with his ancient body. The Vorthic had been watching the galaxy for over 10,000 years, longer than most species had even existed. When they called for an emergency meeting, everyone listened. Fellow beings, HFY's voice echoed through the translators, reaching every ear in a way each species could understand. We face a threat unlike any we have seen before, a danger that grows stronger with each passing day. Ambassador Velthor of the Altarian Confederacy shifted in his floating chair. His blue skin darkened with annoyance. Elder, with respect, what threat could possibly require such urgency? The galaxy has been at peace for 300 years. Precisely the problem, HFY replied, activating the central display. Images of a small blue planet appeared in the air above them. This is Earth, home to a species called humans. 50 years ago, they achieved faster-than-light travel. Murmurs filled the chamber. 50 years was nothing in galactic terms. Most species took centuries just to leave their home system safely. Captain Dexmol of the Kerrigan Collective spoke next, his voice carrying the weight of his hive mind behind it. Elder, we are aware of this species. Our scouts report they have barely 30 star systems. They pose no threat to established civilizations. HFY's eyes glowed brighter, a sign of deep concern among his people. That is exactly what makes them so dangerous. Look closer. New images filled the display. Human settlements on worlds that should have killed them. Cities built in toxic atmospheres. Farms growing food in radioactive soil. Children playing games that used principles of quantum physics. In 50 years, they have not simply expanded. They have adapted to environments that would destroy most of us. But that is not the worst part. The Elder's voice grew quieter, forcing everyone to lean forward. Watch this. A recording began to play. It showed human engineers examining a piece of Altarian technology, a device that had taken the Confederacy 2,000 years to perfect. The humans studied it for 6 hours. Then they built an improved version. Impossible, Velthor whispered. The humans call it reverse engineering, HFY continued. They look at our greatest achievements and ask not, how can we copy this? But how can we make it better? They do this with everything. Our weapons, our ships, our art, our philosophy. More recordings played. Humans working alongside other species, but not as servants or students. As equals, sometimes as teachers. A human diplomat convincing 2 enemy species to work together on a project that benefited both. Human doctors curing diseases that had plagued alien worlds for generations. Human children solving mathematical problems that confused adult alien scientists. This cannot be accurate, declared Minister Kexival of the Zephyrian Republic. Her crystalline form sparkled with disbelief. No species advances this quickly. It violates every law of social development. HFY's forearms spread wide in a gesture of helplessness. That is precisely why they are so dangerous. They do not follow our laws. They do not accept our limitations. When we tell them something is impossible, they ask why. When we show them our greatest accomplishments, they see starting points. The chamber fell silent except for the hum of life support systems. The implications were staggering. What do you propose we do? Asked Admiral Carvis of the Council Defense Force. Containment, HFY said simply. We must limit their expansion immediately. Create a barrier around their current territory. Allow them no further access to galactic technology or knowledge. You speak of war against innocence, protested Dr. Ullman of the Luxari Energy Collective. These humans have shown no aggression toward anyone. They do not need to, SciFi replied sadly. In 100 years, maybe less, they will not mean to threaten us. They will simply make us obsolete. Not through conquest, but through excellence. The debate that followed lasted for hours. Species after species argued against the elders' proposal. The humans seemed harmless enough. They offered fair trades. They respected other cultures. They asked permission before settling on new worlds. Perhaps, suggested Velther, we should simply monitor them. Keep watch, but take no action unless they prove hostile. Many voices agreed with this compromise. The humans would be observed but not restricted. First contact would proceed according to standard protocols. As the vote was called, SciFi watched sadly as 45 of 47 species voted for simple observation. Only the Vorthic elders voted for immediate containment. The decision is made, announced the council speaker. Humanity will be monitored and contacted through normal diplomatic channels. This session is closed. As representatives began to file out, discussing trade opportunities and technological exchanges, SciFi remained at the center of the chamber. His aide, a younger Vorthek named Genthi, approached cautiously. Elder, perhaps we are wrong. Perhaps humanity will not be the threat we fear. SciFi's ancient eyes dimmed with sorrow. Young one, I have watched 43 species rise to prominence in this galaxy. Each followed predictable patterns. Each took centuries to achieve what humans have done in decades. We are not wrong about their potential. Then why do you look so sad? Surely we can find ways to work with them? The old elder began moving slowly toward the exit, his steps heavy with the weight of prophecy. Because by the time they realize what I have tried to tell them today, it will be far too late for containment. The humans are not coming to conquer us, Genthi. They are coming to transform us. And that is bad? SciFi paused at the chamber's exit, looking back at the emptying room where 45 species had just sealed their fate without realizing it. Change is never bad, young one, but it is always irreversible. When the galaxy next gathers in this chamber, it will be as something entirely different than what it is today. As they left the chamber, SciFi's final words echoed in the empty space. They should have acted when the humans were still confined to one star system. Now, it truly is too late. The stars continued to shine through the crystal walls, unknowing and uncaring that the course of galactic history had just been decided by a simple vote to do nothing. The massive galactic council ship hung in space like a silver city among the stars. Its size dwarfed the small human fleet waiting nearby, 30 modest vessels that looked like toys next to the alien dreadnought. Ambassador Velther stood on the bridge, confident in his mission to establish humanity as another minor species under council protection. Sir, his aide reported, the human delegation is requesting permission to board. Permission granted, Velther replied, straightening his ceremonial robes. This would be routine. The humans would be impressed by superior technology, accept standard trade terms, and join the galaxy as a junior member. He had conducted first contact with 17 species. The pattern never changed. The human delegation arrived in a simple shuttle that somehow managed to dock perfectly with their advanced ports. Velther watched through security cameras as 5 humans stepped aboard. They wore basic environmental suits and carried simple communication devices. Their leader was a woman with dark hair and calm eyes. Welcome aboard, Velther greeted them in the main conference chamber. I am Ambassador Velther, representing the Galactic Council. Thank you, the woman replied, her translator working perfectly. I'm Ambassador Sarah Chun, speaking for Earth and the Human Colonial Alliance. Velther noted how she said alliance rather than government. Interesting, but not unusual for younger species. Please, be seated. We have much to discuss. The first surprise came immediately. Instead of staring in wonder at the chamber's advanced technology, the humans looked around with obvious curiosity, but no fear or excessive awe. Dr. Marcus Webb, their linguist, was actually examining the universal translator with scientific interest. Fascinating design, Webb murmured to his colleagues. They're using quantum entanglement for real-time translation, but look at this efficiency matrix. We could improve this by at least 30%. Velther felt his first twinge of unease. No species had ever suggested improvements to council technology within minutes of seeing it. Perhaps we should begin with formal introductions, Velther suggested, activating the standard presentation. Images of the 47 council species appeared in the air. The Galactic Council represents the most advanced civilizations in this region of space. Ambassador Chun nodded politely. Impressive diversity. Are these all the sapient species in local space, or just the ones with faster-than-light capability? The question caught Velther off guard. Most species were so overwhelmed by the scope of the council that they never thought to ask what it might exclude. These are the space-capable species, he admitted. What about the others? Asked Dr. Lisa Park, their xenobiologist. Surely there must be hundreds of pre-spaceflight civilizations. Does the Council have any programs to help them develop? Another unexpected question. The humans seemed more interested in who wasn't in the room than who was. We have non-interference protocols, Velther explained carefully. Ah, Chun said simply. But Velther caught something in her tone that suggested she had opinions about that. Policy. The presentation continued with standard trade agreements. This was where most species either accepted terms eagerly or tried to negotiate minor improvements. The humans did neither. This framework is interesting, Chun said, studying the documents, but it seems designed for simple resource exchange. What about technology sharing? Joint research projects? Cultural exchange programs? Those arrangements are typically reserved for more established members, Velther replied. I see. And how does a species become more established? Time. Proof of stability. Demonstration of advanced capabilities. Dr. Webb looked up from the translator he had been examining. What if we could demonstrate advanced capabilities right now? Before Velther could respond, Webb activated a small device he'd been working with. Suddenly, the chamber's universal translator began working with perfect clarity, not just translating words, but capturing emotional context, cultural implications, and subtle meanings that had never been possible before. How did you do that? Velther's aide whispered, staring at readouts that showed system efficiency jumping by 40%. Dr. Webb has a talent for improving things, Chun said with what Velther was learning to recognize as a human smile. Perhaps we could discuss more collaborative arrangements. The next 3 days became the strangest first contact negotiation in Velther's experience. Every standard protocol was gently but firmly redirected. When he offered humans protected status, they asked about mutual defense agreements. When he suggested trade quotas, they proposed open commerce with quality standards. When he mentioned territorial boundaries, they asked about joint colonization projects. Most disturbing was how quickly they grasped complex galactic politics. Chun somehow understood the tension between the Zephyrian Republic and the Sun somehow understood the tension between the Zephyrian Republic and the Kerrigan Collective without being told. Dr. Park suggested environmental solutions that could help 3 different species with ongoing ecological problems. Their engineer, Commander James Torres, looked at the Council ship's power systems and quietly mentioned several efficiency improvements. You seem to understand our technology very quickly, Velther observed during a private moment with Chun. "We're good at learning," she replied simply. "Our species has always been curious about how things work. But this level of comprehension usually takes decades of study." Chen's expression grew thoughtful. "Ambassador, may I ask you something? How long did it take your people to develop faster than light travel after achieving nuclear technology?" 800 years, Velther answered proudly. "We were considered remarkably fast." "We did it in 70, Chun said quietly. Velther stared at her. "That's impossible." "We get told that a lot," Chun replied with another smile. On the final day, as agreements were being finalized, Velther realized what had happened. Somehow, the humans had negotiated terms that were better for everyone involved. The Council gained access to human innovation potential. Humanity gained full membership status instead of protectorate classification. 3 other species received solutions to problems they hadn't even mentioned. "How did you do this?" Velther asked Chun as they prepared to sign the agreements. "Do what?" "Make everyone's position stronger. In most negotiations, someone wins and someone loses." Chun looked genuinely puzzled. "Why would we want anyone to lose? Doesn't everyone do better when everyone does better?" As the human delegation prepared to leave, Dr. Webb handed Velther a small device. "The translator improvements, permanently installed. Consider it a gift to celebrate our new friendship." Velther watched the human shuttle depart, his mind spinning. In 3 days, these newcomers had somehow become equals rather than subjects. They had improved council technology, solved problems he hadn't known existed, and made him feel like he had gained valuable allies rather than acquired new responsibilities. His aide approached nervously. "Sir, should we report this as a successful first contact?" Velther continued staring at the departing humans. "Report it as successful, yes. But add a note to the file." "What kind of note, sir?" "That we may need to reconsider everything we know about how first contact is supposed to work." As the human fleet moved away toward their next destination, Velther felt a strange mixture of excitement and apprehension. The humans had been nothing like he expected. They hadn't been overawed by Council superiority or grateful for Council protection. Instead, they had acted like equals meeting equals. Like partners finding partners. For the first time in his career, Velther wondered if the elders might have been right to worry. Not because humans were threatening, but because they were transformative. And transformation, he was beginning to understand, was far more powerful than conquest. Captain Dexmal of the Council Survey Corps stared at his instruments in disbelief. According to the data, human settlements had appeared on over 200 worlds in just 2 years. The projection models had predicted maybe 12 colonies by now. "Run the scan again," he ordered his crew. "Sir, this is the 4th scan," his sensor operator replied nervously. "The readings are accurate." Dexmal's hive mind connection buzzed with confusion from his fellow Kerrigan. No species expanded this rapidly. It wasn't physically possible. It wasn't economically sustainable. It wasn't politically stable. Yet here was the evidence, scattered across dozens of star systems. "Take us to the nearest impossible colony," he ordered. "I want to see this with my own eyes." Their first stop was Kythera 7, a frozen moon orbiting a dead gas giant. Council surveys had classified it as uninhabitable, extreme cold. No atmosphere, limited resources. According to their files, the surface temperature never rose above -40 degrees. What they found defied everything Dexmal knew about colonization. A city of 50,000 humans spread across the moon's surface, protected by transparent domes that somehow maintained perfect environmental conditions. Gardens flourished in the artificial atmosphere. Children played in parks where earth flowers bloomed despite being dozens of light years from home. Request permission to land. Dexmal transmitted to the colony. Permission granted. "Captain," came the cheerful reply. "Landing pad 7 is ready for you. Maya Akerfer, colony administrator, will meet you personally." The human woman who greeted them wore simple clothes and a warm smile. She looked like she was enjoying a pleasant day, not surviving on a frozen wasteland that should have killed her. "Welcome to New Aurora," Maya said, shaking hands with each crew member in the strange human custom of physical contact. "I hope you don't mind the cold outside. We keep the domes at a comfortable temperature." Dexmol's environmental suit registered the exterior temperature at -58 degrees. "Lethal to most known life forms. How is this possible?" he asked, gesturing at the thriving city around them. "Oh, you mean the thermal system?" Maya looked pleased to explain. "My daughter Zara came up with the basic idea for her school science project. We're using the temperature differential between the moon's core and surface to generate power. The colder it gets outside, the more energy we produce." "Your daughter?" "She's 16. Loves physics. Would you like to meet her?" Before Dexmol could respond, a teenage human bounded over, her eyes bright with curiosity. "Are you the Kerrigan visitors? I've read about your hive mind structure. Is it true you can share mathematical calculations instantly across your entire species?" Dexmol found himself explaining Kerrigan neural networks to an enthusiastic child who somehow grasped concepts that took most species decades to understand. "That's brilliant," Zara exclaimed. "Have you ever tried using quantum entanglement to extend the range? I bet you could link hive minds across multiple star systems that way." Dexmol's crew exchanged stunned looks. The girl had just suggested a theoretical advancement that Kerrigan scientists had been struggling with for centuries. As Maya led them on a tour of the colony, Dexmol documented impossible thing after impossible thing. Hydroponic farms that produce 3 times the expected yield. Manufacturing facilities that turned ice into building materials. A school where human children learned alongside holographic teachers broadcasting from Earth. "How do you supply all of this?" he asked. "The logistics alone should be overwhelming." "We're pretty much self-sufficient," Maya explained. "We have to be, at this distance from Earth. But we trade with other colonies for things we can't make locally." "Other colonies?" "Of course. There are 47 human settlements in this sector alone. We're all connected through quantum communication networks. If New Aurora develops something useful, we share it with everyone. If someone else solves a problem, we learn from them." Dexmol realized he wasn't looking at isolated settlements struggling to survive. He was seeing nodes in a growing network, each one supporting the others. His next stop was Pyros, a volcanic world where molten rock flowed like rivers across the surface. Council surveys had labeled it uninhabitable, extreme heat, toxic atmosphere, geological instability. The humans had built floating cities that rode the lava flows like ships on an ocean. "The trick," explained Administrator Chen Wei, "was stopping fighting the environment and starting to work with it. The lava provides power, heat, and raw materials. The sulfur compounds in the atmosphere are perfect for our chemical processing plants. What looks like hell to most species is paradise for manufacturing." From Pyros, Dexmol visited 17 more human colonies. Each one should have been impossible. Each one was not only surviving but thriving. On the gas giant Zephyr, humans had built cloud cities that floated in the upper atmosphere, harvesting rare elements from the planetary winds. On the radioactive wasteland of Black Rock Prime, human settlements flourished in underground complexes that turned nuclear decay into power. Most troubling was what Dexmol saw on Venker Prime, a world with an atmosphere so toxic that exposure for minutes would kill most beings. Human children played outside in environmental suits they had decorated with bright colors and patterns. "Aren't you afraid?" he asked one child's mother. "Of what?" The woman replied, watching her daughter chase friends through a game that involved dodging acid rain. We test the suits daily. The children know the safety protocols better than I do. Besides, look at them. They're having fun. Dexmo watched. Human children treating one of the galaxy's most dangerous environments like a playground, and felt something deep in his hive mind shift with uneasy dot, but the true scope of human expansion only became clear when he accessed the communication networks linking all the colonies. It wasn't random expansion, it was a planned infrastructure. Supply routes connected resource-rich worlds with manufacturing centers. Research stations shared data in real time across hundreds of light years. Defense agreements created overlapping security zones. Humanity wasn't just colonizing worlds. They were building the framework of an empire. Sir, his communications officer reported during the return journey, we're receiving priority transmissions from Council headquarters. Multiple species are reporting similar expansion patterns in their sectors. Dexmo's hive mind connection buzzed with alarm signals from Kerrigan across the galaxy. The same impossible growth was happening everywhere humans went. How many total settlements? He asked. Current count is over 600, sir. The number increases daily. 600 worlds in 2 years. The Council had taken 3 millennia to establish half that many colonies across 47 different species. Sir, there's more, his sensor officer added nervously. Long-range scans show construction signatures consistent with shipyards in at least 30 human systems. Dexmo felt his connection to the hive mind flutter with shared panic. Shipyards meant fleets. Fleets meant the capacity for rapid expansion or defense. Neither possibility was comforting. Set course for Council headquarters, he ordered. Maximum speed. As they jumped to hyperspace, Dexmo's report filled subspace channels with warnings that echoed across the galaxy. Humanity wasn't just expanding impossibly fast. They were building something that had never existed before, a unified, networked civilization that treated the galaxy's most hostile environments as opportunities rather than obstacles in the depths of space. Elder HFY received Dexmo's report in his private chambers. The ancient Vorthik read every detail with the weariness of someone who had seen the future and failed to prevent it. They are no longer simply growing, he whispered to the stars. They are transforming the very meaning of what it means to live among the stars. Far away, on 600 human worlds, children played and learned and dreamed of the galaxy they would inherit. A galaxy that was already becoming something their ancestors could never have imagined. Council Intelligence Director Carvis stared at the report on her desk with growing alarm. The Zephyrian Republic, isolationist for over 2,000 years, had just signed a mutual defense pact with human colonies. The nomadic Driftwalker clans, who had never established permanent settlements, were building bases in human space. Something was happening that challenged everything the galactic community understood about interspecies relations. Director, her aide entered the office nervously. We have confirmation of 17 new human alliance agreements this month. Species that have never cooperated with anyone are suddenly working together. Carvis activated her personal investigation protocols. As head of Council Intelligence, she had resources that could uncover any conspiracy or hidden agenda. What she was about to discover would shake her understanding of politics, psychology, and possibility itself. Her first investigation target was New Harmony, a joint human Zephyrian world that shouldn't exist. The Zephyrians were crystal-based beings who communicated through harmonic resonance. They had always considered carbon-based life forms too chaotic and unpredictable for meaningful cooperation. The shuttle flight to New Harmony gave Carves time to study the preliminary reports. According to surveillance data, the world hosted 50,000 humans and 30,000 Zephyrians living in integrated communities. Not separate districts or isolated settlements, actually. Integrated. What she found on arrival defied every principle of sociology. The city of Crystal Gardens sprawled across rolling hills where crystal formations grew alongside earth trees. Zephyrian song towers rose next to human residential complexes. The architecture was unlike anything in the Galactic database. Structures that somehow combined human organic curves with Zephyrian geometric perfection. "Welcome to New Harmony," greeted Administrator Sarah Kim, a human woman with bright eyes and an easy smile. "Director Carvis, right? We've been expecting you. You have?" "Council intelligence isn't exactly subtle," Sarah replied with amusement. "Plus, Harmony singer Velthran mentioned someone would probably come to investigate our impossible cooperation." His words, not mine. Carvis followed Sarah through streets where humans and Zephyrians moved together with casual familiarity. Human children played games with young Zephyrians, their laughter mixing with harmonic chimes in ways that somehow created beautiful music. "How is this possible?" Carvis asked. "Zephyrians require crystal matrix environments. Humans need organic compatible atmospheres. We figured out how to give everyone what they need," Sarah explained, leading her to a magnificent structure that seemed to be both building and artwork. "The Zephyrians taught us about harmonic architecture, construction that resonates with natural frequencies. We showed them how organic materials could be integrated without disrupting crystal growth patterns." Inside the building, Carvis witnessed something that challenged her understanding of biology itself. Human engineers worked alongside Zephyrian crystal singers to design structures that were somehow alive. The walls pulsed gently with harmonic frequencies that promoted both human health and Zephyrian resonance stability. "This is the Harmony Medical Center," Sarah explained. "Dr. Rachel Chun and crystal healer Zervain developed treatments that work for both species. They've eliminated 3 major diseases that have affected both our peoples for generations." Carvis watched a human doctor and a Zephyrian healer working together on a patient, a human child with a rare genetic condition. The Zephyrian's harmonic ability somehow amplified the human doctor's bioscanner, providing diagnostic clarity that neither could achieve alone. "The disease is completely gone," Dr. Chun explained later. "Zervain's harmonic healing accelerated cellular repair beyond anything we thought possible. But the really exciting part is what we learned about how our different biologies can complement each other." "Complement?" "Humans have incredible genetic adaptability," Dr. Chun continued enthusiastically. "Zephyrians have perfect cellular stability. When we combine human adaptive medicine with Zephyrian harmonic therapy, we can cure things that were impossible for either species alone." Carvis left New Harmony with her preconceptions shattered and traveled next to the Driftwalker station orbiting the human world of Wanderer's Rest. The nomadic Driftwalkers had never built permanent structures in their 30,000-year history. Their culture was based on constant movement through space in great ship fleets. Yet, here was a massive space station that somehow moved. "Welcome aboard the Eternal Journey," greeted Captain Vilmorian, a Driftwalker whose ship tattoos marked him as one of their greatest navigators. "I understand you're investigating our partnership with the humans. Your people have never built stationary bases," Carvis pointed out. "Who said this was stationary?" Valmorian replied with what might have been amusement. "Watch." Through the station's viewing ports, Carvis watched space itself seem to flow past them. The massive station was somehow moving through hyperspace while remaining anchored to normal space around the human planet. "Impossible," she whispered. "The humans introduced us to quantum anchor technology," Valmorian explained. "We can maintain our cultural need for movement while still having a permanent base." Our young ones grow up traveling the stars, but they always have a home to return to. What do the humans gain from this arrangement? Valmoyen's expression grew serious. Navigation. We have mapped stellar currents that exist in dimensions your science cannot detect. Humans have given us the ability to settle without abandoning our nature. We have given them the ability to travel paths through space that cut journey times by 70%. Over the following weeks, Carvis investigated alliance after alliance. Each one followed the same pattern that defied conventional wisdom about interspecies. Cooperation. The energy being Luxari had always struggled to interact with physical matter. Human engineers developed solid light interfaces that allowed Luxari to manipulate physical objects without losing their energy-based nature. In return, the Luxari shared power generation techniques that made human technology incredibly efficient. The hive-minded Kerrigan Collective had never been able to foster individual creativity within their unified consciousness. Humans developed collaborative frameworks that let individual Kerrigan express unique ideas while maintaining connection to the hive. The result was Kerrigan art and science that combined individual innovation with collective wisdom. The proud Altarian Confederacy had stagnated technologically for centuries due to rigid social hierarchies. Human social scientists helped them develop merit-based advancement systems that preserved their cultural values while encouraging innovation. Altarian scientific output had increased by 300% in 2 years. Every species that allied with humanity didn't lose their identity. They became enhanced versions of themselves. Director. Her aide reported when Carvis returned to council headquarters. We have a problem. 40% of council member species now have some form of alliance or partnership with humanity. Carvis reviewed the data with growing unease. The humans weren't conquering anyone. They weren't imposing their culture or values. They were somehow making every species they encountered better at being themselves. What does council leadership want us to do? She asked. That's the problem, Director. Half the council leadership has partnerships with human researchers. Admiral Keshen's own enforcement fleet wants to study human tactical innovations. Carvis felt the foundation of galactic order shifting beneath her feet. The council had maintained stability for 3,000 years based on the principle that species advance slowly and predictably within established patterns. Humans were proving that advancement could be rapid, unpredictable, and mutually beneficial. Director, her aide continued nervously. There's one more thing. Elders HFY has requested a private meeting with you. An hour later, Carvis sat across from the ancient Vorthik, who had warned the council about humanity 2 years earlier. You have seen what they do, HFY said without preamble. They collaborate. They innovate. They solve problems. They transform, HFY corrected. Every species they touch becomes something new. Something better. Something that cannot return to what it was before. Carvis stared at the elder. Is that necessarily bad? No, HFY replied sadly. That is why it cannot be stopped. Who would choose to go backward once they have seen what they could become? Outside the elder's chambers, the galaxy continued its ancient dance around distant stars. But something fundamental had changed in the space between those stars. 47 species were discovering that their limitations had always been self-imposed. And in human space, children of a dozen different species played together and wondered why their parents had ever thought cooperation was impossible. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in the same crystal chamber where Elders HFY had first warned about humanity 3 years earlier. This time, the debate was not about whether humans posed a threat, but about what to do when that threat had already transformed half the galaxy. Elders HFY sat in his designated area, ancient and weary, Watching the same representatives who had dismissed his warnings now argue frantically about military intervention. The irony was not lost on him. They still didn't understand what they were facing. "The situation has become intolerable," declared General Thekmer of the Hegemony War Council. Human influence now extends to over 40% of Council member species. Our military projections show complete galactic integration within 5 years if current trends continue. "Integration is not conquest," protested Minister Kexival of the Zephyrian Republic. Her crystalline form sparkled with agitation. "Our partnership with humanity has brought advances we never thought possible. Why would we consider that a threat? Because it changes everything." General Thagmar slammed his weapon's appendage against his desk. "The balance of power that has maintained galactic stability for millennia is collapsing. Soon there will be no pure species left, only these hybrid alliance systems." Ambassador Velther of the Altarian Confederacy leaned forward. "General, with respect, our alliance with human researchers has produced more scientific breakthroughs in 3 years than we achieved in the previous 3 centuries. Our people are healthier, more creative, and happier than they have been in recorded history." "That's exactly the problem," Admiral Carvis interrupted from her position with Council Intelligence. "How do we maintain governance when species are advancing beyond our established frameworks? How do we predict behavior when humans keep making the impossible routine?" As the debate raged, reports continued streaming in that made the discussion increasingly academic. The Luxari Energy Collective had just announced a joint colony project with humans that would harness the power of an entire star. The Kerrigan Collective's latest artistic collaborations with human creators were producing work so beautiful that other species were making pilgrimages just to experience them. Most troubling of all was the report from Admiral Keshin of the Council. Enforcement Fleet. Honored representatives. The Admiral's image appeared on the central display, broadcasting from his flagship. "I must report that human naval coordination techniques have made our traditional enforcement capabilities obsolete. Not through superior firepower, but through tactical innovations that turn every engagement into a puzzle to be solved, rather than a battle to be won." General Thakmar's face darkened. "Are you saying our enforcement fleet cannot maintain order?" "I'm saying our enforcement fleet has requested permission to study human coordination methods," Admiral Keshin replied calmly. 3 of my battle groups have already implemented modified versions of human tactical frameworks. Combat efficiency has improved by 60%, but more importantly, we're finding solutions that end conflicts without violence. Solutions without violence? General Thekmar's voice rose to a roar. "That's not how enforcement works." "Perhaps," came a quiet voice from the back of the chamber. "That is exactly why their way is better." All attention turned to Captain Yarthek of the Periphery Defense Force, a normally silent representative from the galaxy's outer rim territories. "Continue." "Captain," invited the council speaker. "My forces have been working with human advisors for 8 months, Yarthek reported. In that time, we have resolved 47 territorial disputes, prevented 6 wars, and established peaceful contact with 3 previously hostile species. Not through intimidation or superior force, but by helping everyone find solutions that served their actual needs." Elder Zephi listened to the increasingly desperate debate with the patience of someone who had foreseen this moment years ago. Around the chamber, representatives struggled with the reality that their attempts to contain humanity had failed not through resistance, but through irrelevance. "We could still take military action," General Thekmer insisted. "Overwhelm human space with combined fleet actions." "With what?" demanded Admiral Carvis. 40% of our member species have defensive pacts with humanity. The Kerrigan Collective has declared they will defend human space. The Zephyrian Republic has stated that any attack on their human allies will be considered an attack on them. Even the energy beings of Luxari have threatened to cut power to any fleet that moves against human territories. Then we use the pure species, Thakmer replied desperately. The ones who haven't been contaminated by human influence. A new voice entered the debate, young and clear and utterly confident. Excuse me, but that list is getting pretty short. Every head turned toward the chamber's entrance, where a human woman had somehow appeared without triggering any security alerts. She wore a simple blue uniform and carried herself with the easy confidence the council representatives had learned to associate with humanity's natural diplomacy. "I am Ambassador Sarah Chun," she announced, walking calmly to the center of the chamber. "Earth's representative to the Galactic Council. I believe you were discussing my species. This chamber is closed to human observation," General Thakmer protested. "Actually," Chun replied with a smile, "according to Council Charter Section 47, any species under discussion has the right to representation during emergency sessions. I'm here to represent humanity's perspective." Elder Zephahai felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries: surprise. Even now, when the galaxy was debating how to stop them, humans were still following proper procedures and working within established systems. "What do you want?" asked the council speaker. "To help," Chan replied simply, "which seems to be what we always want." The chamber fell silent, except for the hum of environmental systems maintaining 47 different atmospheric requirements. "You speak of contamination and conquest," Chun continued, addressing the assembly. "But look around this chamber. Look at your own representatives. Minister Kexival, when did your people last suffer from crystal rot syndrome?" The Zephyrian minister's crystalline form dimmed with embarrassment. "Not since our medical collaboration began." "Admiral Carvis, how many intelligence operations have failed since your analysts started using human pattern recognition techniques?" "None," Carvis admitted quietly. "Captain Yarthek, how many of your people have died in territorial conflicts since you started working with human negotiators?" "None," the captain replied. Chun turned to address Elder Zephahai directly. "Honored Elder, you warned this council that humanity would transform the galaxy. You were absolutely right." Elder Zephahai studied the young human who had somehow made her way to the center of the most secure chamber in galactic space. "And what would you have us do with that knowledge?" "Stop fighting it," Chun said gently. "Stop trying to go back to what things were before. Look forward to what they could become." She activated a small device, and the chamber filled with images that took away every representative's breath. Cities where a dozen species lived and worked together in harmony. Research stations where impossible breakthroughs happened daily through collaborative innovation. Ships that moved through space using principles that combined the best insights of 47 different civilizations. Children of multiple species playing together and learning from each other. Art that could only exist when different forms of consciousness combined their unique perspectives. Music that incorporated harmonic frequencies from crystal beings with emotional resonances from organic life. Poetry that existed in dimensions of meaning that no single species could access alone. "This is what transformation looks like," Chun said softly. "Not the end of who you are, but the beginning of who you could become." General Thakmer made one last desperate attempt. "And if we refuse? If we choose to remain pure?" "Then you remain exactly who you are," Chun replied without judgment. "Free to continue as you always have. But the galaxy around you will keep growing. Keep learning. Keep becoming something more wonderful than anyone imagined possible." Elder Zephahai rose slowly from his chair, his ancient joints protesting the movement. The chamber fell silent as the oldest being in galactic space prepared to speak. "Young human," he said, his voice carrying the weight of eons, when I warned this council about your species. I thought I was preventing a catastrophe. Elder? Chun asked gently. I was wrong about the catastrophe, SciFi continued, his forearms spreading wide in a gesture of surrender and acceptance. I was not wrong about the transformation. He looked around the chamber at representatives from 47 species, many of whom no longer looked exactly like their ancestors had 3 years earlier. Not physically changed, but somehow more than they had been. You cannot stop what has already happened, he told the assembly. You cannot return to what you were before you knew what you could become. The choice now is not whether to change, but whether to change together or apart. The vote that followed was closer than anyone expected. 26 species voted to formally dissolve containment protocols and establish the new Galactic Alliance with humanity as equal partners. 21 voted to maintain traditional council structure,